All right, we're looking at the key drivers of the key lines in a surfactant P&L, and this is part 4. And here in this generic P&L, we're looking at SG&A, that's selling, general, and administrative. Also, critically including, although it's not mentioned in the acronym, R&D, research and development. Now that we're at SG&A, I get to show this slide, which has been a firm favorite at our Surfactant Business Essentials course for about 15 years now. And it shows the relationship of gross margin and SG&A for a selection of business segments within a broad portfolio surfactant company, like, say, a BASF, Dow, Indovinya, Stepan, something like that. And down in the bottom, so each blue circle is a business segment, right? And down in the bottom left are your commodity businesses. This might be, as an extreme example, you're selling LAS, right, to P&G or Unilever for use in a laundry detergent or a household cleaner, okay? And up in the top right are your specialty businesses, right? They've got high gross margin, relatively high gross margin. And this could be a lubricant additive, it could be an emulsion polymerization specialty or an agricultural emulsifier, something like that. They typically have high gross margins, higher than your commodity business, but you have to support those high margin specialties with expenditures in SG&A. For example, you're going to be probably supporting them with a lot more tech service, a lot more things like performance testing, formulations technology, maybe even some patents, presentations of papers at industry meetings, publications, etc., 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 right? Because they're, in many cases, new compounds and highly specialized, tailored to a specific application. And so what you will see, if you're smart, and I know many of you are, that there's a good place to be on this graph. There's also a not good place to be. And here they are, right? And so the idea here is you really need to be lined up and ideally over to the left of that dotted line. So when you see that blue dot next to the big red not a good place, that's a business that may have at one time been a high margin specialty business, right? But over time, that margin, that relatively high gross margin, has been competed away, right? And so it's come down, yet you're still spending against that business as if it was still a specialty. We see this in our daily lives. What started off as a specialty surfactant 10, 20 years ago is now very much a commodity, and that's a natural cycle of things. And so what this says is you really need to be reviewing your portfolio of business segments in a framework like this, right? And doing it at least on an annual basis. And so you can see how they line up, what's in a good place, what's in a not good place, but as importantly, what's been moving over the years. And things, as I said, tend to come down in gross margin as new competitors enter the market. Patents may be expiring, whatever. And you need to be aware of that and adjust your SG&A expenditure accordingly against those business segments. This is a very common problem which I see in all sorts of chemical companies, including surfactant companies, and this is something, as I said, you need to review on an annual basis. Right, what else can we say about SG&A? Some tips. Channel management and the overhead associated with that are very important in this area. Again, that's a function of the businesses you're going to be in. Direct versus distributor sales, that's an important consideration. Those two options don't need to be in conflict. Distributors can be a very cost-effective way to service a segment of customers that you wouldn't necessarily get to with your existing sales force. And Please do not offer technical service as an all-you-can-eat buffet, right? That's like all comers can just consume as much as they want. That's really taking us back to that SG&A gross margin graph, where you have to be very deliberate and strategic about how you allocate those SG&A resources. R&D and tech service are very much part of that equation. So you really ought to be tailoring those services and those costs. And again, it's all this video is all about those SG&A costs appropriately to the business segments that you're in. So I hope I've given you some food for thought. I welcome your feedback. And as always, thanks again for listening.